So this topic is taboo to speak about in most circles, and legally speaking, I'm sure there's going to be a whole bunch of attorneys out there who see this video and have a lot to say about drugs in the workplace. And most of them are going to tell me that what I did could be considered illegal in their state, right? But trust me when I tell you that I did this with the full blessing of our law team and our HR department, and we followed all the right guidelines to handle this properly. But we recently fired somebody for using drugs. And I want to discuss this from a 30,000-foot view because, like I said, this topic is taboo to speak about in a lot of circles. And that's because there's so many new guidelines over the last decade or so about what you can and cannot fire people for, or what you can and cannot speak about in business as it relates to drugs, which I personally think is asinine. However, in our particular situation, there was a person abusing a certain drug, and that was causing him to be erratic in his performance and his attitude and the way he treated others on our team. So we became a virus. And again, I know there's a lot of different viewpoints on drugs in the workplace and a lot of different viewpoints on what a drug actually is, right? I mean, drugs could be anything from coffee to heroin and everything in between. And I'll admit that when I first got started in business, I was a big believer in drinking a lot of coffee and also letting my sales team drink as much coffee as they wanted to so that they could keep, running on all cylinders. But after almost burning out, I got mono-focused on optimizing performance, both for myself and my team. And what I found was that even something as common as caffeine can slow growth. In fact, in our company, too much resulted in lower numbers and not reaching targets. But the drug that I'm talking about is not caffeine. It's one that is illegal in almost every part of America. And I do not want this to turn into some kind of rant on drugs. That's not what this is about. I just want to share what I've seen in business as it relates to certain drugs and how we handled it so that it'll save you a little bit of time. And I'll tell you this first. I watched a really good friend who owned a large car dealership grow massively about a year ago because he was ramped up on drugs. But during that time, he destroyed his family life. He lost several friends, and not long after, his company took a big hit and almost went bankrupt because of his abuse of this exact same drug that somebody on our team was using. And I also know a woman in the pharmaceutical industry who used to tell me about how so many people in that industry were literally rewarded, not for reaching their targets, but for working super long hours. That just didn't even make any sense to me, right? And the only way that they could work super long hours was to take amphetamines. And during the time that I knew her, I met a lot of her friends. And I was always kind of shocked by how they bragged about how much they worked. But when I would literally sit there and talk to them, they all kind of seemed like they were faking their happiness. And most had crappy family lives, and they all needed other drugs to stay emotionally stable. Now, unfortunately, I've got a lot of other examples like this that I've seen in the business world regarding drugs. So at this point in my life, I'm really not interested in having anybody on our team who takes illegal drugs because I know how much it hurts them and their family and how much it negatively affects the culture of the company and also their ability to consistently and predictably perform at their best. So that person was let go. But it wasn't until after we met with our legal counsel and our HR and had a lot of communication back and forth with him because there's a whole lot of steps involved in that kind of a situation. So if you have anything like this going on in your business, here's what we did first to help get through this smoothly, right? First, we got qualified legal counsel who had experience with this kind of situation. That's important. Then we made sure that our company policy was up to date with drug and alcohol parameters, right? Which it was. Then we made sure that we had documented all the, I guess, quote unquote, suspicious activity and the complaints and the work habits. And then finally, we followed everything that our attorney said to do, right? And I need to take a quick step back here because I think this is super important. When I say qualified legal counsel, I'm not talking about general business attorneys because a general business attorney is not the one I want helping us with employment law. And our employment attorney is not the one that I want reviewing business contracts. And our contract attorney is not the one that I want representing us if we buy or sell a company. And our M&A attorney is not the one I want handling our IP, right? You get it? Now, if you're under $1 million a year, you might be able to get by with just having a general counsel, I guess. But really, every single business owner needs to have a list of attorneys who are specialists in their field. And you might think that sounds really expensive, but in reality, if you had your neighbor who's a general business attorney giving you advice on firing somebody, there's a strong possibility you're going to have a very costly problem. So at least I found that having the right kind of attorney saves me a ton of time and money in the long run, and also in the short run. So if you're in a position where you need to fire somebody, or you think you might be in a position where you might have to let somebody go in the near future, then now is the time to make sure your employment practices are solid. And now is definitely the time to find a great employment lawyer and get them to review things for you. Because when it comes to getting this stuff right in business, I live by the rule that says it's never too early and it's always too late. Never too early, always too late, right? And I'm kind of curious at this point, if you disagree with any of this, especially if you disagree with firing somebody because they're taking drugs, tell me in the comments below, because I know this is a very touchy subject in the world right now. But if you're the owner of a company, then you have a responsibility to your company and to the rest of your team and to your customers and prospects. And if you have investors and partners, you have a responsibility to them too. And when one person is damaging that, you need to step in. You have a responsibility to step in a legally accurate way before it causes permanent damage to your company. And again, I know this is a delicate subject, but growing a business requires the leader of that business to be its guardian. So I hope this is helpful. And if it helped you in any way, give this video a thumbs up and I'll see you next time.